every relationship is a sacred energetic exchange. So when we don't ask her permission, when we have, let's say, a dependency on her, and I see this in the medicinal world of cannabis, when we are dependent on her to take away our pain, to heal us, to treat our cancer, so to say, we are not in the equation of our healing.
Mm-hmm.
We're dependent on her to do the healing for us. Well, what are we giving for that healing? So permission allows us to enter into the sacred relationship with her higher self, where we are asking one, her permission. Do I have your permission to imbibe you for this healing ceremony? And of course, she's going to say yes, because she wants to help you heal. And then it also, when you ask yourself permission, you're giving yourself permission to drop your barriers, to receive her.
Thank you for tuning into this high vibing episode. I've got a literal queen with me today. From a passionate chiropractic doctor at just 23 years old, working 4 chiropractic practices in 3 countries, she became burnt out as patients kept returning with the same pains and issues. Thanks to her finding cannabis, she birthed a self-healing methodology using ancient ascension practices taught in temples and mystery schools, a sacred secretion somatic sequence, a sacred marriage, and finally found the book that she'd been looking for her whole life. And it had been inside of her the whole time. The Sacred Cannabis Bible, a self-healing manual, a somatic medicine bag, an ascension toolkit, and a guide to all things to help you go higher. I am so happy to introduce to Power Perspectives, Dr. Womb Shaman, author of SOMATOPHOBIA, a guided sacred cannabis journey to your higher self, and so much more, Dr. Shelly Persad. Welcome to Power Perspectives, Shelly.
Thank you, Shannon. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. And as I was saying to you before, there is so much in your realm, and there's so many ways that, cannabis speaks to you and has guided you. And as this is going to be airing on 420, I would just love to get into it with you. How has cannabis changed your life?
That's such a big question because she has literally changed my life in all areas of my life. She's guided me to remember who I am, why I'm here, guided me onto my authentic path, the path of my higher self, guided me in understanding why I was burnt out when I knew more was possible, but I just couldn't find the more. I was looking externally. She guided me deeper into my body. I thought I was in my body until she's like, let's descend deeper.
Yeah.
And then she's like, now let me guide you through your body and help you remember how to heal yourself, allowing me to take back my power. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, being a chiropractor, my reason for burnout was really because I knew more was possible, but the same pain kept coming back over and over again. And I saw that same burnout in my coaching practice and in my own healing journey where I had tried it all. Every modality under the sun, you name it, I had tried it. And I was so frustrated because I knew so much more was possible, but I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't feeling it. And even with my cannabis practice, my first plant medicine ceremony was Bufo, which rebirthed me and
Wow.
rebirthed my relationship with cannabis.
Right.
And when Bufo rebirthed me, I didn't realize there were no preparation, instructions, guidance, nothing from the shaman who served
Oh
me.
no,
So I'm going into this totally
that's
blind
huge.
first plant
Yeah.
medicine ceremony. And then I realized cannabis is reactivating Bufo. First is CBD oil taken right before I fall asleep at night, and my dreams are crazy. And there was one dream where I ended up in Peru, and the shaman there told me his name, and I came out and woke up the next morning and Googled him, and he was real.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is happening here? And it wasn't until a week later when my husband mouth bumped me cannabis. I'm cooking dinner in the kitchen, and I feel like I'm back in a Bufo ceremony. I rush to the living room to lay down so I don't fall over and crack my head open on the floor. And I'm laying there, and she's taking me, cannabis, she's taking me on this most beautiful journey through my body. And her voice comes to me and she's like, Shelly, I know you've been looking for the more that you know is possible. Are you ready to stop looking externally? Are you willing to trust me and surrender to me? Because I'll guide you to the more that you know is possible that you've not been able to find externally.
Yeah.
But there's one requirement. You can only imbibe me in sacred ceremony with rituals and an intention to drop in, feel, and heal. And she's like, you trust me and revere me as sacred. I will guide you there to exactly what you're looking for. And at first, I'm like, yes, I mean, I've been so frustrated and burnt out. Yes, I'm willing to trust you. Guide me. I surrender to you, basically,
Yeah.
were my words.
Yeah.
And then that began my journey. So once a week, my husband and I, we were already in a meditation breathwork practice. So we would once a week have a date with cannabis and do our breathwork practice.
Nice.
And that is when she began guiding me. And in her guidance, she guided me into what I needed to feel and then allowed me to really drop into my body and surrender to my body to let my body guide me in remembering how to heal it.
That's
So it
big.
started, yeah. So it started as breath work. And then one day I was laying out my mat to do yoga, which, by the way, this is our ceremony room where we spend 5 hours a day in, 4 to 5 hours a day, couple hours in the morning, couple hours in the evening. And we have all sorts
Beautiful.
of Shakti tools, bamboo sticks, myofascial foam rollers. Our practice didn't start there though. So it started with breath work. And then I laid out my yoga mat one day. I was going to do the normal routine that I normally do, that is memorized. I've done it so many times,
Yeah.
step by step. This pose, then that pose, then that pose. And I have these resistance bands and they called to me. My body's like, grab your resistance bands. And I'm like, what? We're going to do a resistance band workout? My body's like, no, just grab your resistance bands, put them on, imbibe a little bit of cannabis, and just surrender. And my body just went into all these different positions with the resistance bands. And I fell in love with this practice. There was no flow, no structure, yet there was structure in the actual practices, but it was just totally surrendering to my body. And I had this like, wow, I would have never gotten into this position with the resistance band now, feeling the tension and pain because I was super flexible. And I've had this chronic right SI joint restriction, gone to chiropractors my whole life. That's why I became one. But I realized I need to heal this myself. The same way my patients, I knew I couldn't take them deep into the root cause of
Mhm.
why they have sciatica or neck pain. Well, I have this restriction and I've always had it from the time I was born because I was a breech baby. And I'm like, I've had so many adjustments. Why is it not holding?
Mhm.
And part of this practice, cannabis would, I was doing it 3 to 4 times a week. Cannabis would remind me this tension that's causing the restriction is so deep. Of course, you can't release it with a chiropractic adjustment or 100 chiropractic adjustments because it's an unhealed trauma. It's a childhood wound. It's an ancestral pain. It's programming. It's fear. And there's so many layers stored in the fascia that this practice, which I call womb kriyas with the resistance bands, stop all workouts, stop all exercise, no gym, nothing. Just commit to this practice, my body said. Allow your body to come back into its natural alignment. Unravel all the tension, creating that restriction that no matter how many adjustments you received, it just wasn't holding. And that began my journey with the resistance bands and the womb kriya practices. And I was doing them for 2 years, getting to know them deeper, shamanic level journeys. I mean, psilocybin, ayahuasca, bufo level, journeying through my body, unlocking all these memories. And I was unraveling during these 2 years exactly what these practices do. And our fascia is this liquid crystalline matrix that flows from head to toe. It encases every cell, tissue, organ, bone in the body. And it stores every memory of our soul.
Mm.
From the time our soul was born to where we are now, all past lives on this planet, other planets, all of our ancestors' memories, their traumas, it stores everything. Literally, the cosmic library is stored in our fascia. But
Mm.
we've forgotten that the Holy Grail is stored in our body because it's covered in dust, the stuckness, the restrictions. So the resistance bands for me, my little analogy is our frequency prison is the fascia, and it's all the unhealed traumas creating distortions and stuckness. And the resistance bands mimic the stuckness and allow you to dance with it, pushing and expanding the fascia, allowing that stuckness to melt and dissipate.
That's
And
such a good visual. That's a great visual.
because it's like saran wrap. So if
Yeah,
we can stretch it open, the stuckness that keeps it restricted, when we expand it, stuckness is just stuck molecules. Expanding the molecules apart, they're no longer stuck anymore.
that's
And then
beautiful.
using breath and squeezing our pelvic floors and sound and movement and pushing, activating our womb power, which is where our inner healer lives, transmuting those stuck energies in our fascia. And there's two reasons for that. One, our fascia has been called the pathway of consciousness in the body. So the way to our higher consciousness is through the pathway of consciousness in our body. But if it's stuck, those are blockages in our pathway to our higher consciousness.
Mm.
And then the other reason is there's 72,000 nadis that flow through the fascia, and these nadis are literally highways for Shakti, our life force, our inner healer to flow. But if they're stuck, if they're suffocating underneath fascia, restricted fascia from those unhealed traumas, 1 square inch of restricted fascia is equivalent to 2,000 pounds of pressure on our body, which that's the frequency prison that we live in. I literally feel like sometimes it feels like a straitjacket. So using the dance allows us to, from the inside out, break free out of that frequency prison.
You make me want to move. You're saying so many things. I'm like, take notes. Like, no, it's okay. It's recorded. You don't have to take notes. That's great. And I'm hearing a lot about the womb as well. And I know that you do womb kriyas. And I'm thinking there's so much that men are holding also. Is that, I think I saw on YouTube, so your partner and you do these together, and there's some just for men and just for women to really specify our parts, our differentiations. That's so
Yes.
important. And I think a lot of us, but particularly men, we do numb with weed. And
Mm.
just in the last few years, when I've been doing yoga and just really deep in meditation, actually with coupling it with psilocybin or with amanita, that communication has been like, oh my dear, have an intention for us. We're not just come home and smoke a doobie. We're like a teacher also, and please have an intention with every use. And to have that actually communicated to me, where I got out of my meditation and told my partner, I'm like, don't smoke
Mm.
without an intention. For you to be able to drop back into those high level, ayahuasca, DMT, high trips, just using the intelligence of marijuana, or cannabis, what does that look like for you?
So reverence, sacredness. So when she asked me to surrender to her and revere her as sacred and only imbibe her in sacred ceremony with that intention to drop in and feel and heal, that is the secret to our liberation. So she's like, where Bufo took you, you went to the cosmic womb, you were reborn. Literally, you died and were reborn. Cannabis in that first dance with her, she's like, I can take you there, just me, but allow me to guide you. And here's how we're going to do it. And it's through the fascia, the pathways. When we clear those pathways of consciousness in the body, we access our higher consciousness. And she will guide us when we revere her as sacred. So in my book, I channeled her for the first few chapters where she
Awesome.
shares her 9 divine passcodes that you can meet her with to revere her as sacred, and then different ways you can create intentions. And then, as part of my book, there are the built in technologies that your body came with when you were born that facilitate your healing, your self healing, your liberation, your ascension. And when cannabis is paired with these somatic practices, that is the magic combination.
Yeah.
When she's revered as sacred, she's also, every experience with her is a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. So when we revere her as sacred, we revere ourselves as sacred. And we can, through the somatic practices, what we're doing is we're dropping into the body and we're cleaning our temple. It's like I said, the Holy Grail is in our body, but it's covered in dust. So we have to drop into our body, activate these built in technologies, breath, sound, movement, squeezing, tapping, pumping, and reclaim space, reclaim power, reclaim agency, reclaim control and connection in our body from those traumas so that we can pull home our higher self. So our higher self can now be in our body. So we can live and feel and express from our higher self instead of only meeting our higher self in a medicine ceremony.
Right.
Cannabis has been big with me about dependency and taking back our power and not depending on any of the medicines to heal us. But when we imbibe them in ceremony with the intention to heal, they will be our greatest guides.
That's a big thing for me, for a lot of people is, when you're feeling stuck or something, like maybe I should do the work, and the work you think is I better sit there and puke in a bucket and feel so bad about this and feel this trauma come up again and then feel the connectedness to all the universe. But the work doesn't need to be in a ceremony that you're saying. And I really am glad to hear that right now.
So, this journey with cannabis to drop into our body, the descent is dropping deep into our body, our womb, and then ascending. And at first, we will meet Shakti. Shakti is our inner healer, and she is our life force. She's our divine feminine essence. She is the one who we feel when we sing, when we're joyful, when we're breathing, squeezing, when we're moaning or humming, when we're tapping our body, we're feeling Shakti, we're coming alive. Kundalini is our serpent of our higher self. And she comes awake when we feel her, because she's literally the engine of our light body. And our light body is our ascension vehicle. Shakti, our life force, she's the fuel for our light body. She is what wakes up. If we generate and pump enough Shakti, then our Kundalini will wake up and rise. And when she does, she burns away through all traumas. And this is where a lot of people have fear of a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, because when she rises, if there are any blockages in the pathway of consciousness, in our fascia and our vagus nerve, where fight, flight, freeze is constantly flowing, and our nadis, the nadis, Ida and Pingala, that crisscross like serpents, if those are clogged and blocked, when Kundalini does wake up, she will bump into those blockages and then explode them into pain or symptoms.
That's awesome
So,
I love that you're a doctor that knows all of the anatomy and all of the medicinal Western processes, but that you're so in tune with the traditional wisdom of these teachings. So that's amazing to bring them both together. Um,
the, I'm always grateful for chiropractic because it was such a stepping stone for me to have like you say, the anatomical, oh, this is what's going on, da 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 da, to go on that inner journey through these feminine dimensions of consciousness, because our body is feminine. And the word shamanism translates to be one who knows how to navigate the feminine dimensions of consciousness. So if our body is feminine, mind is masculine, those feminine dimensions of consciousness are in the body. And that is where the real shamanic journey begins.
and how long have you been on the journey with cannabis? Like, so from that time that you had the ceremony that says, if you revere me, I will be with you. How long has that been in your journey to actually birthing the book? Because it's a big book, and that isn't just something you write overnight. That's a commitment of a labor of love. And you literally said you birthed it. So, how long from when you started
Yes.
to now?
So first, that book was gestating in my womb for 13 years.
Right.
And it took on many different names and faces and themes, but it just never felt right. It was like,
Yeah.
no, that's not it. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
So 7 years, my relationship with cannabis since it changed, 2017. And that is when I started getting a clearer vision of what this book is. 2018, I had a beautiful ceremony. My husband gave me a massage, and I went so deep that the pain portal popped me through to this beautiful vision of, this is your book. And I saw the bigness of it. And I'm like, that's my book. I'm like, what is that? And then the medicine's just like, you got a glimpse. Now continue your journey. So I
Yeah.
oftentimes get these like full vision. Wow, now how am I going to get there? And then come back. So 2018 until last year, 2023. So it was a work in progress. Initially, it was going to be about all plant medicines, but then I would say in 2019, it narrowed down to just cannabis. I mention other plant medicines in the book, but cannabis mimics any plant medicine. Like I said, psilocybin, ayahuasca, bufo, when she's revered in sacred ceremony, she can guide you on just as a deep of a shamanic journey, and she can heighten your state of consciousness to that same level as Bufo.
That's powerful, like that's incredible. And I feel bad to her now that I haven't given her the reverence that she deserves. And also,
And
like,
don't feel bad because that's one of the things that I always remind people. Don't judge yourself in how you're using her. And that's where I have a disclaimer at the front of my book as well. Please do not judge yourself. However, I'm just here introducing this new way, this higher way, which is really, it's not a new way. It's an ancient way that's been lost and forgotten. And then we had all the war on drugs and the prohibition and da 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 da. And all of that has just been the programming that caused us to forget how we once imbibed her and what her higher power really is. And
well,
we don't have any rites of passages either.
mhm.
So
Well, and how do we? So, if I'm sitting with my partner and we want to really pay homage, and do you suggest? How would you suggest people have their own ceremony for using her? Candles, altar. What do you suggest?
it can be as simple as laying out some yoga mats and just sitting and holding her and thank her. Revere her as sacred. Ask her permission. Do I have your permission to imbibe you? And then ask yourself permission to receive her divine guidance wherever she desires to take you.
Does she
And
ever
that
say no?
opens you up.
She's like, no.
No, because her higher self, and this is so interesting, her higher self wants everyone to really remember how to imbibe her in sacredness. So those people who've been smoking her for years, who one day she induces paranoia or fear or anxiety, that's her higher self. Like, okay, it's time to stop abusing me, which mirrors you abusing you. And it's time for you to see or feel what you need to heal. And if they're not ready to see that or meet that part of themselves or to feel whatever she guides them to feel, their body goes into that fear state and then
Mm,
paranoia sets in and then they blame her instead of realizing that she's just a mirror. When she's a plant teacher, she's just going to hold up the mirror and reveal us to us. And without an intention, she likes to swing open the door to our subconscious mind and pull an intention out of there, which can be deeply rooted in fear. And then the other thing she does that some people may meet, especially the first time they meet her in a sacred ceremony, she will show you what your state of being is, whether you're in a fight state, a flight state, or a freeze state. Where I've guided people in ceremonies where their whole body, they just go into freeze state. They feel paralyzed, they feel numb, but this is mirroring that nervous system state that they're stuck in.
had no idea that it could act as a mirror. And so many people have that experience that, oh, I get paranoid, or like I do, I get paranoid if I'm around anyone else besides my partner. I'm just like, no, it's our safe space. And that's fascinating to hear that. 'Cause I'm like, why don't you get paranoid? Like, why are you so cool with this? But that's something to really work on. And I always had that feeling of like, okay, whatever it comes up that's bothering you or that you're spending time thinking about while, being being high, you can work on like, okay, I can be better here and I can be better here. And it's channeling. I'm having a conversation with something higher than my normal state of consciousness because it feels more loving. It feels more right. It feels heart centered. One thing I really wanted to ask you is, I mean, weed now has been so, I mean, it's kind of a bastardization in some ways when we make it into this flavor and that flavor and through this vape pen. What are your thoughts on the sourcing of weed and how cannabis can be used? Like, is vaping still sacred? Is do you know what I mean? Like how do we consume it to still make sure it's sacred?
Well, and as anyone is beginning their journey of moving from not sacred relationship with cannabis to a sacred relationship with cannabis, however they desire to continue using her, as long as you revere her higher self as sacred,
Okay.
because her higher self lives in the flowers. So I personally, the most sacred way to connect with her is imbibing her flowers, mixing her with blue lotus, mugwort, some different herbs, rose. But oils, you can invoke an intention with oils. One of the things about the flavors and all these different strains.
Mhm.
So having lived in third world countries, I don't have access to all these different strains and flavors and whatnot, all the fanciness of cannabis. All I know is I'm getting a really good source of cannabis from wherever, from now here in Panama, we get it from Colombia, as long as it's organic, no chemicals. But we have compared both, let's say $50 an ounce cannabis to $300 to $400 homegrown, top of the line, because we have a friend here who he breeds his own. Same shamanic journey, same intensity in our heightened consciousness, same level of going into our body and squeezing out the pain and popping through portals and rebirthing ourselves. So it doesn't matter when you revere her as sacred because you're working and invoking her higher self. So the actual flower, the strain, how much you spend, the flavor, none of that matters.
That's
One of the
beautiful.
things it is, because then there's, we have this beautiful black cannabis from Colombia, from a Yahe Taita. He made it, and it's just as powerful as Yahe, just as powerful as Bufo with one or two drops. But even with that, like before I lick it off of my wrist here, just thank you. Thank you. I trust you. I surrender to you. Guide me. Because what I've remembered with cannabis is that there comes a point where you trust her so much to be your guide that you no longer need an intention because that intention may be coming from your ego and she may want to guide you somewhere else.
Mhm.
And this is where just let go of all attachments. Just thank you. I trust you. I surrender to you. Guide me into what I need to feel so that I can heal it.
And so will you have it before a meditation and then kind of go into a meditation to hear what's coming up, or will you have it before your kriyas or both? How often do you have her?
So my kriyas are my meditation. So my husband and I, when he first started meditating, he wanted me to get up and meditate with him. And I'm like, traditional meditation just doesn't work because yes, I'm aware of my thoughts, but I'm just sitting there counting my breath or I'm like, it doesn't work. I'll stay in bed and do my own thing. And it was after Bufo rebirthed me that no, I'm going to start getting up and finding what kind of meditation works for me. And that's where breath work became my meditation. And then when I birthed womb kriyas, that became my meditation. And then the sacred secretion practices, working with rolling on a foam roller, using my bamboo sticks. That is our meditation. So we are in a fully embodied dynamic meditation. It's not serious at all. We laugh, we joke, we have fun, we
Mhm.
assist each other. Like, babe, pull my arm. I need to breathe
Yeah,
and stretch this open. And he's in a
yeah.
position and he's pulling on my arm, and we're both healing something at the same time. So that is where we imbibe cannabis, is in our meditation. And then, of course, when I offer my womb kriya ceremonies every Saturday, we imbibe cannabis before we begin the womb kriyas. And cannabis, so our bodies came with an endocannabinoid system. And I call this system the divine union system. It's our body's restorative system. Its sole purpose is to guide us back into a state of balance or equilibrium, or as I call it, divine union. Balance between our mind and body, right brain, left brain, masculine, feminine, lower feminine body, upper masculine body. And what happens is when we imbibe cannabis and we have these receptors in both our mind and body, cannabis goes and wakes up those receptors, activating our endocannabinoid system, which is one of the reasons she's such a beautiful medicine for somatic work, for dropping into our body and really feeling, because all those receptors in our body are like, wakey, wakey, as you inhale her smoke. So once your mind and body are online in the womb kriyas or in these other practices that are basically using breath, sound, movement, even with the Shakti stick, using breath, sound, movement, breathing into pain, breathing into those stuck pathways of consciousness in our fascia, and then squeezing them out, dancing them out, pushing them out. And we call that rebirthing ourselves from our trauma self to our higher self. And pain is the portal. And everything we're looking for, the everything higher, higher chakras, higher dimensions, higher self, higher purpose, higher potential, higher power, higher knowledge and wisdom. It's all on the other side of our trauma self, our pain body. Everything we're looking for is accessible through our higher self. And the journey really is squeezing out all the trauma to pull home our higher self, soul retrieval.
That's really beautiful. And I think so many people have just put cannabis in that box now of like stoners and whatever else that we don't see it as the goddess, teacher, healer,
Yes.
healer assistant that it is. When you actually, I read something you wrote about weed being able to help with weed addiction. And that was kind of like, okay, like you never hear that about anything else. Like, let's have a beer to have the alcohol. It doesn't work with stuff with, but this is such an intelligent teacher. How does that look like to the body, to the brain?
Yeah. So when cannabis is imbibed, not, I can't even say imbibed because imbibed is consciously with sacredness, but when cannabis is consumed out of that addictive state,
Mm-hmm.
cannabis is not addictive herself. There's an unhealed trauma or wound or void where we feel like we're lacking something, and that addiction can be anything. Well, cannabis just happens to be a really nice vice that we attach and latch onto. And when we are already, as a society, we're already disembodied, we're disconnected, we're disassociating due to our traumas. When we imbibe in that addictive state, we're not imbibing. Let me take that back. We're consuming her.
Yeah.
We're just getting high. We're checking out. So it's like a short little vacation from our reality. But what we're actually doing is furthering the disconnection and the disembodiment because we're not dropping into the body to heal the disembodiment, the disconnection, the disassociation. So, because our endocannabinoid system is the system that restores us back to a state of balance, if we're not dropping into our body and assisting our endocannabinoid system in returning to balance by uprooting the source of imbalance, or in this case, the source of addiction, when we do that, we can assist our endocannabinoid system and return ourselves back to a higher and higher state of balance. So then that balance, the endocannabinoid system restores us to during a, let's say, a recreational or medicinal or dependent use or addictive use, once the high wears off, that balance wears off. Whereas when you drop into your body and heal the root cause of addiction, which is an unhealed trauma or childhood wound, when you heal that, wow, there's no more addiction there. And with your endocannabinoid system bringing you back into balance, you can move closer to that state of equilibrium in your body. And I've worked with so many people who, once they healed that trauma that caused them to be addicted, to want to check out, to
Mhm.
numb, to escape, whatever, once they healed that, and once they met this higher power of cannabis in a ceremony to heal it, they were like, wow, I can never go back to consuming cannabis the way I did before, just to check out or get high or, numb and veg out. No, they're like, wow, that would be doing a disservice to her. And then
Yeah.
I'm always like, and that would be doing a disservice to you. Your body's your vehicle.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
should be
that's
checking in,
the
dropping
power perspective.
in.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
Exactly.
Can I ask you, this is probably a selfish question, but a lot of people might have it. Is that associated with, you know what, I don't like getting the munchies. I don't like feeling groggy and tired after. Is that because it's still being used as a substance to treat or numb? And then does that get overcome when you're actually using her ceremoniously with reverence?
Yes, it absolutely. So with the munchies, I wrote about this in my book too.
Right.
One day, Cannabis shared with me why she gives people the munchies. And what happens is when she starts wanting you to feel or see something about you that you don't like, it's like emotional eating. We immediately get hungry. We're hungry for something, but instead
Right.
we turn to the food and we use that to fill that void space that she wants to guide us to so we can actually fill it with what we're hungry for, which is our higher self. But
Mm,
instead we turn to the munchies and we fill it to numb ourselves so we don't have to feel that. And the only reason we do that is because we forgot how to feel it. We forgot how to heal it. And when we don't know how to heal it, it's a scary, scary thing. Well, I don't want to go there because what am I going to do when I go there? What am I going to do when I look at that? I don't want to see that about myself because how do I change it? How do I heal it? How do I let it go?
um, Thank you. That's a great way to rethink about all of these things. And I mean, in your book, there's so much that you discuss, and I can't wait to get stuck in. And I'm super excited to. We'll leave links for all of your work at the end of the podcast or in the description. But you talk about the 9 codes, and obviously we don't want to give away too much. But could you describe maybe one or two of what the codes are for and what they're unraveling, what they're doing?
Yeah, so one of the codes is I'll share permission. I mentioned permission earlier. When we ask cannabis permission, every relationship is a sacred energetic exchange. So when we don't ask her permission, when we have, let's say, a dependency on her, and I see this in the medicinal world of cannabis, when we are dependent on her to take away our pain, to heal us, to treat our cancer, so to say, we are not in the equation of our healing.
Mm-hmm.
We're dependent on her to do the healing for us. Well, what are we giving for that healing? So, permission allows us to enter into the sacred relationship with her higher self, where we are asking one, her permission. Do I have your permission to imbibe you for this healing ceremony? And of course, she's going to say yes, because she wants to help you heal. She's like the divine mother. She wants you to heal, she wants her child to be free. And then it also, when you ask yourself permission, you're giving yourself permission to drop your barriers, to receive her.
Mm.
Because the question I always guide people in ceremonies is, do you ask your mind, body, and soul permission to receive her divine guidance, to allow her to guide you into seeing and feeling exactly what you need to see and feel so you can heal it?
That I just have so much more to think about. And I know it's not to feel guilty, but just all of those experiences where it hasn't been, you think of ayahuasca and yahe and all of the other plant medicines that there's so much preparation for, but not with her. And maybe last year, I think I was rereading Carlos Castaneda's Way of the Yaqui, the way that he was talking um, about cannabis being a very powerful feminine energy, and that energy can take you over if you don't respect her. And it can be, and I that was the first time I really had a thought about, okay, so this is just as powerful as all the other plant medicines, and why would it not be? It's silly to not give it that accreditation. um
Absolutely.
what do you see next on your path?
Continuing my healing journey, continuing offering my ceremonies, my womb kriyas every Saturday. I I spent 3 years writing my book,
Yeah.
birthing it, and it was, as you said, a labor of love. And just as anything that you give birth to, there's always all these emotions that you have to work through and heal. And in healing my wound with my parents, there was a burden loop, karmic loop. There was guilt. There were all these things. So because I gave birth to this book, it's like my baby. So I've been healing all the guilt associated with taking time away from enjoying my amazing husband and going and doing things that I sacrifice doing because no, I have to give birth to this book. So my future is full of joy and adventures and living and continually helping humanity remember how to birth themselves.
Yay, that's amazing. And I want to ask you, what do you wish more people knew about your work? I mean, there's 100 things more, but what do you like, maybe at the top of your list, what do you wish people would kind of have a better understanding about with your work and what you're doing with cannabis?
So the time period that we are in right now on Mother Earth, she is rebirthing herself out of the third dimension of fear, war, injustices, separation, division, disease, this false matrix that we've been living in for however many years. So she's
Mhm.
rebirthing herself into the fifth dimension of unconditional love, authenticity, and integrity. And in order to ascend with her, we have to descend into our body first. And as we anchor more of our higher self in our body, as we clear out those pathways, the clogged nadis, the fight,
Mhm.
flight, freeze, and the vagus nerve, the more we clear that out, as these solar flares are coming in from the sun, which are like gifts from the cosmic womb, from the divine mother. She's sending blast of rebirthing energy through the sun to Mother Earth, helping her with her rebirth. And as those solar flares enter our physical body, they're creating what's called ascension pain or symptoms. And that is where these high vibrational frequencies are coming into our body, but they're hitting those blockages.
Right.
They're hitting all the unhealed traumas. Our fascia is supposed to be liquid and crystalline and fluid, but it's stuck and it's rigid. So when those high frequencies hit us, it can be painful. It can explode into symptoms, which I want to remind everyone, don't go into the fear. Don't go into what's wrong with me. Don't try to label it. Body, check in with cannabis. I had so many symptoms show up as I was purging my womb portal. My programming wanted me to go into what's wrong with me. No, no, no. Cannabis would always guide me out. Shelly, remember, you're cleansing and purifying your temple body. You have to purge this out. Just let it
Yeah.
go, whatever it is. So, to be able to navigate this ascension journey in the coming years, the body is the key. Setting our pain body so we can activate, like I said, our light body. And by waking up our Shakti, she's the fuel for our light body. And then our mind is the navigator of our light body. So we need a strong masculine container to be able to direct Shakti, our inner healer, into all those
Mm.
places that are numb and stuck. So
Amen.
my message would be now is the time to, if you're not in your body, drop into your body and start healing your pain body now so that you can surf these waves of high vibrational frequency. So you can expand your container to hold higher frequencies, more lights, more unconditional love, supporting Mother Earth's rebirth by rebirthing ourselves.
That's great. And you make it, it sounds like it doesn't have to be, I like that you used pain portal before. It doesn't have to be just this treacherous, traumatic experience to clear trauma. Using plant medicines and cannabis, you can have a gentler experience. Is that what I'm hearing? And just understand through the cells. And it can be difficult if you want it to be, or what do you think about that?
So I am someone who I love the pain portals. When I was in chiropractic college, there was a beautiful documentary that came out called Orgasmic Birth.
Okay.
And there's a chiropractic technique for adjusting pregnant women and breech babies. And I worked with a few patients who were actually able to experience that higher cosmic pleasure at the time of birth because they transmuted the pain into the higher pleasure.
Mm.
So these pain portals, they're birthing portals, just like giving birth can either be a traumatic, painful experience, or we can remember it can be a pleasurable experience using our breath and moving and dancing our way through the pain. But the only way through the pain that's already stored in our body is through it. So we have to remember, how can we move through it and not back out of it due to the programming, avoid pain, seek pleasure. Because for the fascia, those restrictions that are 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, the only way to get them to totally release and let go is a certain amount of time of holding deep pressure. So that's why I love to just lay on a foam roller and just breathe into it and let go and journey through all the layers of the pain. And you'll meet different, very varying levels of pain, from like a knife in your stomach to feeling nauseated to getting dizzy. You'll feel all sorts of like grumbly noises going on. So there's so many layers of the pain that I'm someone who just, I keep pushing
Right.
through it because I know
Yeah.
what's on the other side and I
Yeah.
want that.
Yes.
So it can be gentle and it can be intense. Now, to do the sacred secretion somatic sequence, that's intense. That is pushing yourself to your deepest fears of death. It's pushing yourself into all of your limitations, and then you have to push beyond your limitations. And it requires a lot of strength, mental strength,
I'd love to
physical
hear a
strength as
little,
well.
like, so is that a physical, for example, I had this de-armoring experience where someone probably twice my weight was finding a pressure point and then with their entire body weight pushing on it for 20 minutes. And you just allow yourself to go through the pain, which they kept checking in every 5 minutes. No, every like 20 seconds had to be a 9 or above. So you go through all the like, why are you doing this to me? Why am I paying for this experience? Ow, stop it. I hate everything, everyone. Ah. And you cry and you like, it's literally bruising you and you're in so much pain. But you know that I had gone back to a past life. I saw just when you go through
Yes.
that much pain, you really clear something or come back to a truth that you didn't know that you didn't know. And that's really powerful. Would you describe that similar process? And can you
Yes.
describe what you do in the somatic sequence?
Yes. So exactly what you've said there. There's different layers to the fascial matrix. The
Right.
first layer is all the traumas you experienced in this lifetime. Second layer is past lifetimes. Third
Okay.
layer, ancestors' lifetimes. Fourth layer, collective traumas. Fifth layer is galactic traumas, traumas from wars and the galaxies that have been going on for millions of years, incarnations of your soul on other planets. So, and that's where, like, once you're there, you're clearing stuff through all those layers. So, the deeper into your pain you go, is the deeper you journey through those matrices, returning you back to your original blueprint.
So are you still doing, I mean, you've been so busy and now you've just released the book and you want some time for yourself, but are you still doing in-person retreats or will you be in the future? Cannabis
Yes,
ceremonies?
absolutely. So, I do, and this is why I do the womb kriyas every Saturday. They're like integration ceremonies. It helps women remember how to navigate their body. So then during the week, they can go into their daily practice and then come for Saturday's womb kriyas and go deep and then go back to their daily practice and continue unraveling. So then we don't have this period for integration. Integration is just this continual unraveling and spiraling on our journey. And then I have a Meet Your Temple Body ceremony, which I do online the first Saturday of every, or first Sunday of every month. And that's where you get to meet this foundational framework of how to drop into your body, how to wake up your seven Shakti activators, and then how to strengthen your masculine container, your mind, to multitask those seven Shakti activators. Because now you have your mind and body active at the same time. And to truly heal anything, you got to heal it from both the body and the
Mm.
mind. And then, so I offer that online as a group as well. But then my husband and I do offer our private ceremonies and retreats.
Do you have any kind of quote or book or sentiment that you haven't shared that's kind of changed your life or made you contribute to who you are?
My desire for more. How bad do you desire your liberation? If we can remember that we are so much more powerful than any fear, anything that shows up, oh my God, it's too much, it's too intense, I can't handle it. That just means we've forgotten who we are and our true power. And that's part of this journey of self healing, where when you drop into your body and you remember how to heal yourself, then there's no more fear. And I will admit the fear does still show up because there's been thousands of years of fear passed down through our ancestors to us. So we still meet fear. I met fear this week. My husband was working on my neck, holding the stick, and I'm dancing with it in bridge. And I meet this part where the pain was so intense. I felt like it's going to cut off my breath. Like I'm not going to be able to breathe. And then the fascia's tensing up. And I just had to remind myself over and over in my head as I'm holding my breath, how bad, Shelly, do you desire your liberation? How bad do you
Mm.
desire your liberation? Inhale more, take back more power, take back more space, open it up more. And that is what motivated and pushed me through that fear that showed up like, you can't go any further. It's too painful. It's too much. But when we remember that we're here to liberate ourselves, if we can remember that in any moment of trauma, trigger, stress, like, wait a second, hold on, let me just breathe. I'm more powerful. Who or what am I giving my power to? What am I feeling with this trigger? Instead of defending or blaming, let me take it to my daily practice. And that's why we're so committed to our daily practice, is because two reasons for that. We do one in the morning and the evening. So in the morning, first thing in the morning when we wake up, our brain is still in that theta state.
Mhm.
So we get a head start on connecting with our higher consciousness. Even without cannabis, we can access the same heightened state that cannabis facilitates for us. So, first thing in the morning, we come into our practice to raise our vibrational frequency. I consider it coming, checking in with my holy temple body, dusting it, cleaning off my holy grail, unlocking some wisdom, and then receiving the gold of the holy grail. So, it's checking in and creating space for my higher self. So, it's like going to church, but I'm going to my own church right here. And then in the evening, we do a practice to kind of let go of whatever showed up during the day. If we were on technology, to basically shed all the electromagnetic frequencies. If one of us got triggered, okay, we're going to carry it into our evening practice so we don't take it to bed. So our conscious mind
Right.
doesn't impregnate our subconscious mind with it, allowing us to take it into tomorrow and then recreate it over and over. So we commit to twice a day so we can raise our frequency and then let shit go at the end of the day.
That's really beautiful. Oh my gosh, like thank you so much. You've shared so many
Well,
things that I have to just sit with and meditate on and honor this goddess. Really, really thank you. I'm so grateful for your time and I cannot wait to actually get into your book. And where else can we find you? So you're online also?
so right now my book is only sold on Amazon. I
Okay,
do have a ritual blueprint coming in the next few months. It's on pre-order on my somatophobia.com website. And
great.
that's going to be full of cannabis rituals and somatic rituals, the practice that goes along with the book. And then on that website, too, people can join my free somatic ceremonial book readings,
That's awesome.
where it's basically a sacred cannabis ceremony. My husband and I will guide you in different breath work practices, different positions while you're listening to the passages that I read from my book while he plays musical instruments. So it's like a
Awesome.
sound healing concert, book reading, embodiment, sacred cannabis journey all in one.
Well, and you're on YouTube because I did see him on the harmonica while you were talking us through kind of a meditation. That was awesome. So you're on YouTube and you're also on you have your website, drshellypersad.com /womb creas to get specifically there. But I will put all of that in the description because people need this information. It's incredible. And as are you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shelly, for sharing your time with me today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And I just want to remind all the women the first womb Kriya ceremony is free, by the way. So you can come and feel the work because words just don't do it justice. You just have to feel it. Thank you,
Awesome.
Shannon. It's been such a pleasure.